7:13, we're learning more this morning about the tragic death of popular dancer and DJ Stephen Twitch Boss. According to TMZ, Twitch did leave behind a note in the Encino motel room where he died, alluding to challenges that he'd faced in the past. It's not exactly clear what those challenges are, what he's referring to. Law enforcement says that a common online theory claiming Twitch was facing financial issues is not true. His wife also telling officers that the couple had not fought or quarreled when he left their home on Monday.
You are now tuned into the XYZ Connection, redefining the generational gap, hosted by Myckelle Williams, bringing you critical conversations impacting generations. Join us for real, raw, and relevant dialogue from a multi-generational perspective. Let's connect in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, welcome, guys, to the XYZ Connection live podcast. My name is Myckelle Williams, and of course, I'm your host. I'm here to ask all the tough questions and get you involved in discussing real, raw, and relevant social issues from a multi-general perspective. I'm really excited about today because I haven't done a live in a while, and so I'm just looking forward to connecting you guys all and hearing what you have to say about this topic. Because a lot of us have been seeing what's been going on in the news and with depression and suicide, and with the holidays coming, there's so much I want to get into as far as talking about depression and suicide. And I think it's a good time. Our show is all about relationships. And so just being able to get together and have discussions to me is important. So before we get started, what we're going to do is invite everybody. I see somebody on there saying, yay! Glad to have you join us. If you guys want to chime in at any time, just feel free to put your comments down there at the bottom and we'll go ahead and address you guys if you have any questions as well. We're going to have some great guests today. So this is going to be an impactful show. If you know anybody who's suffering from depression, has had those tendencies, please have them watch today. And if you've missed it, don't worry, we will have a recording later. So first of all, I want to kind of introduce, we're doing things a little bit different. I have a co-host today. So I'm going to kind of introduce my co-host. And you guys may know him from the page already. His name is Marcus Alford. How do you pronounce that, Marcus? I don't say it wrong. How do you pronounce your name?
Well, it sounds like old Chevy, but I'm an Olford. Marcus Olford. So there you go.
Oh, nice. So Mark Olford. And Mark, where are you from? Tell us a little tiny bit about yourself and your background.
All right. So a little bit about me. I'm from Houston, Texas, way of Sacramento, California. What that basically means is that I was born and raised in Houston, but graduated high school in Sacramento from the mighty Grant High School. We just won the state championship a couple of weeks ago, so I got to give it up for them. And yeah, I've kind of lived all over the place. I'm like a nomad, and yeah, that's who I am, and I'm proud of it. Oh, two daughters.
Now, see, you're a former. 2 daughters. Okay, awesome. Well, glad to have you co-hosting with me. You're the one who asks all the tough questions, which I think it's funny because I'm more serious. We're going to just get into the subject and we're going to make sure that we just be sensitive to all the issues. And you're the one who wants to set it off. So
yeah.
that might be a little.
You got to get to the nuts and bolts and the roots of the issue. You can't pussyfoot around it sometimes.
Okay, so you're going to be asking the tougher questions too, so I love that. I see that you're a former football player with CTE, and I also saw that you are in treatment yourself for depression. You've dealt with that as well. So tell me a little bit about that real quick, because this topic is dear to your heart. You have actually had experience with depression and anxiety.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of times people think, especially back in the day, when these athletes, because there was a lot of high-profile athletes that would kill themselves, and it was like, oh, it's because they're not competing anymore and all of this stuff. But it actually turns out, as we see through the Will Smith movie, that it's the concussions and and some of what happens from that, it causes a lot of imbalances within the brain and within your body in general. And one of my teammates right now is a lead study in the whole CTE program. There's a big group on Facebook that's supporting a lot of athletes from around the world with it. And, like I said, for myself personally, around 2012 or 2011, I sought treatment from a psychologist because I literally felt like there was a spell or something of it, because I was able to do certain things, but then your focus and something just wasn't right. And then right around that time, the movie came out, and then as we kind of flushed out other things, it turns out that the CTE and the concussions is a real thing. And even one thing we'll talk about later is that there's college athletes that are suffering from depression and suicide, being suicidal even today because of the pressures, and then also because of concussions.
I think it's interesting because a lot of people don't relate depression to athletes, and athletes are expected to, get out there and be tough and suck it up and not show any type of weakness at all. If they come out and have, man, I'm depressed, everybody's like, okay, like laughing. It's taken as a joke. I mean, I've noticed that even with a lot of male celebrities who are going through stuff, they're made into memes if they're showing any sort of weakness, sadness, things like that. And it's like, why aren't these type of high profile or strong men allowed to express emotion and show that type of
I think
fear,
it
pain, whatever?
I think it has to do too with like Western society, where men are supposed to be the savior, all of these masculine brute things, but we are human, and when we talk about athletes, and let's just talk about, like, say black male athletes, a lot of times you're the meal ticket. You're the person that's supposed to free the family financially, and then when that doesn't happen, there's a lot of pressure that happens. You feel that. Because you within yourself, you wanted to give your mom the house, buy your sister the house, and all of that stuff. But sometimes the sport doesn't allow that, and then you have to become normal again. And that's something like what people really don't understand. Like I used to always say to people, there's this effect. That's like when 60,000 people are screaming when you're running a touchdown. It is the most addicting feeling you could ever imagine. If you ain't never had that feeling, you would never understand that. And so sometimes people look at that and go, oh, well, you just missed the crowd. It's like, well, yes and no, but there's certain things that went along with that you can never explain to people. And a lot of times that can also, help sink you into a deep, depression, or like what I experienced, social anxiety. And you would look at me and think, oh, boy, ain't nothing wrong with you. Yeah. I actually was aware of it, and I used to try to make myself go out to be amongst people so I could try to get over it. But within, like, some friends, especially my friends in Australia, they would tell you, I'd show up, and then all of a sudden I'd disappear, because the crowd was just, like, being around people was just, it was strange.
Yeah.
And, it would cause you to have anxiety attacks.
Well, I think it's good that you're here. Thank you for co-hosting with me today. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to just, getting really into these stories, because we have some great stories today. I am really excited to introduce our first guest. We have here, let's go ahead and put them on the screen. I'm really, really happy to have them. Gerald and Trina Stinson. Yay! And I do want to say Gerald and Trina are friends of mine. Over 20 years we've known each other. And I love the things they're doing right now as far as mental illness and a variety of topics. I mean, they even have their own show. As you can see, their professional little cool background. We got, his name is The Real DJ Side, so I know you've probably heard of him already. But I'm excited to have them on the show. Yeah, they got the T. I'm about to go get the T-shirt. Where's my XYZ T-shirt? So I love it. I love that they're out here doing their thing. So I'll tell you a little bit about them. For Gerald, he is a father. Well, actually, both of them have been married for 31 years. They're parents of 3, and they've recently experienced the loss of a son to mental health on September 4th, 2019. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. They have experienced mental health personally issues. So they're using their show. It's called An Afternoon Window on Global R&B 96.3 as a platform to bringing awareness to the world about mental health and mental illness. So welcome, Gerald and Trina. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
I am so excited to have you guys here. So a little bit about you. I told I was just saying that you guys lost a son to mental health, and we're talking about that today because you really don't see the signs. We're going to get a little bit more into your son and kind of that situation. But I want to hear from you guys about the resources that may be out there. What advice would you give for people, who may be going through this? Because it's such a personal thing. What gave you the courage to want to be able to share, this story of your son publicly? Because some people, they don't want to talk about it. They're down. But you guys have used this as a platform to spread awareness. So what gave you that courage to do that?
Well, for me, I think the courage came from my son. So first of all, everybody has to heal in their own way. So I had a rough time going to family counseling. And for me, talking about issues makes it better. And I know that even though my son suffered from mental health, he was always out there helping other people who were suffering with the same thing as him. He was a mental health advocate himself. So I decided I needed to carry this on and make him proud.
I love that.
Yeah, and for me, it's pretty much the same thing because I know the type of person that my son was. Like Trina said, he was an advocate for other people's mental health or mental illnesses that they were going through. He was their cheerleader, their coach, and letting them know, hey, you have someone to talk to if you need someone to talk to about anything that you're going through. He would always preach the gospel to all of his friends. But little did anyone know, or his friends know, I'm sorry, not anyone, we knew, his friends know that he was suffering himself. And because of the strength that he had in talking about mental health to other people, Trina and I both felt we know that it is our duty, our calling to discuss mental health, a wide range of mental health topics to the world. As you know, my show is broadcast around the world. So we use that platform to talk about it because a lot of people don't want to talk about mental illness. And we'll probably get into this later, but people think when you talk about someone being mentally ill, you might think that they're crazy, and that is not true.
Right.
I think it's so interesting, the normality. The people who kill themselves and have depression, I think they're so normal. They're working people, they're family, husbands and children and wives and sisters, and the people will say, hey, I've seen them last week. They were great. Right. Even with the Twitch, he did a TikTok 24 hours before he died, dancing with his wife, and everything looked amazing. And you guys said, with your son, he helped others and he preached to others. And so then we wonder, like, if that person is struggling, if the person that's uplifting others is struggling, how do we know, how many other people are struggling that we don't know about? So that's going to be something I really want to dig into when we have that conversation. I'm going to introduce some of the other guests, and then I'm going to get into your individual stories as well. Thank you for being here, and I'm really excited to do this. So the next person that we have, I'm really excited to share with you. She is an attorney, she's an author, she's a columnist at USA Today and BuzzFeed. She's a speaker and entrepreneur, and close to my heart because she's my daughter, so that's pretty excited to be able to have her on my show. She received her JD from Harvard Law School and her Sustainable Business Strategy certification from Harvard's Business School. She sits on the board of Children's Rights, nonprofit advocacy organizations, as well as coaches, business owners in sustainable digital influence and financial struggle. So I want to welcome to the show, yay, Brianna Williams. It's so exciting everyone. To have you here, Brianna.
Thank you.
Welcome. Yay, welcome. I cannot wait because you are such an inspiration to so many. You have, I think, twice gone viral on social media. And you have just been, overwhelmingly loved and appreciated by others because of your status, because of graduating from Harvard as a young woman and a mother at the same time, and because of all the things that you've gone through to get where you are as a business owner. You're doing fitness line clothing now. I mean, I've seen so many great things coming out of you. So the fact that you're here talking to us about depression is another thing that we're going to dig into, because you have also dealt with depression, and people would never guess. They see you, going to Paris and Rome and Milan, and you have your daughter, and everybody's beautifully dressed, and you look like the cover of a Hallmark magazine. So, real briefly, while we introduce you, tell us about, the stigma of being such a professional and being out there and suffering from depression, and how that has kind of affected how you want to, you thinking your image is going to be out there, going through being broken down if you're depressed. But how does, having depression affected, you being a social media influencer?
I feel like there's several components to this question. Firstly, I believe that depression itself is stigmatized. I don't know if there's a stigma of being depressed and a professional, but it is a stigmatized alone, as individuals who are depressed are seen to be different or not in their right mind or sick or something of the sort. And I've touched on this a little bit before, but we tend to stigmatize medication that's used to treat depression as opposed to stigmatize other, and we don't stigmatize other things that people do that seemingly help with their depression, but in the long term hurt them. So for example, whereas antidepressants would be stigmatized, alcohol and drugs and such, although have sometimes frowned upon, but mostly, and not alcohol in itself, they are more widely accepted. And so we reach this juncture of individuals who are afraid to get help. And I think that goes into my second point, whereas as a professional and an influencer, you are seen as someone who has everything together. And so to come forward and be transparent and say, hey, I don't have everything together, it's a scary situation, because the biggest thing about being an influencer is to play on the social media psychology of people wanting to be you, or people wanting to live vicariously through you and have your experiences. And in that, you're essentially romanticizing your life for them. And that is part of the appeal of getting them to buy into anything that you're offering, whether it be your story or a product. You essentially are a product. And it's concerning when you are not feeling your best, because you recognize that it's not easy to sell a product that is depressed or is bad, is seen in society as bad or stigmatized. It's actually extremely hard to break away from the fantasizing about having this wonderful life and being transparent and saying, hey, this is what my life really looks like. This is who I truly am, and I always try to tell people, anyways, like, if you meet me in person, I don't wear makeup barely. I'm always in gym clothes. I am not the same as I am on social media, but social media and images sell. And so we reach a point where we're trying so hard to preserve this image because it represents the product that people want, that we put our energy into preservation instead of persevering on our own and actually being that type of person and actually focusing and improving our mental health. We want to look so put together that we actually take away from the steps that we need to take towards being put together. And as a professional, I think at this point, with the State of the Union and also with how work and such is going, professional is synonymous with depression. Like if you want to work, you probably are depressed in some capacity, because it is so stressful and such. And we saw how people focus more on that at the helm of the pandemic and all of these social justice ordeals that were ongoing and such. People started really noticing and focusing on their mental health, and especially since they were able to stay home and see how the transition from going into an office and such and being around people energetically and all those things and staying home. But there's another facet of that with onlookers who look at people who have attained worldly success, because for me success is relative, and like attorneys and such, and say, hey, she went to Harvard and she is a lawyer and she's all of these things, and because those are some of the things that they may have imagined that they wanted to do, they then say, okay, but she has no reason to be depressed. They don't understand, that again, the relativity to it all is, maybe I have attained professional success, but I'm still a single mom. I still get very lonely. I still live far from my family. As a single mom, I still feel like I'm not financially where I want to be. And having all of those things that I feel are blanketing around me, sometimes suffocating me, and knowing that I'm feeling that way, but again, having to show up in my professional life a certain way and also show up as an influencer and project a certain type of image, it creates a different type of stress. So just get all of those.
Yeah, and I find that I find what you said really interesting about being a social media person, wanting to portray the image that you have it all together. And I think that's where a lot of people are pressured by society into being perfect. And so when we're not perfect, that even makes you depressed. That's a whole nother element that's added to that depression. Because you're like, well, I'm not able to do this. Maybe this other person is. And really, they're having struggles as well. They're just not putting it out there as well. So I think that's why when we're all,
But social media has permeated society in a way that has affected people's mental health by default of comparison. You're constantly looking at what other people are doing and saying, hey, why can't I do that? Or why am I not doing that? Or you're looking at their homes, you're looking at their relationships. And we know it in the back of our minds, but we don't necessarily think about it. The fact that in social media, we're seeing the best part of people's lives. We're seeing the best part of their relationships. We're seeing, even if, someone's like showing their house, like we're seeing the smallest part, the part that is not at all messy and whatnot. We're not seeing the messier part of people's lives. And then that gives us the need to envy and compare ourselves to them. Like, okay, this person is able to do X, Y, and Z, but, I feel stuck. And then even though I feel stuck, I still have to pretend that I'm not stuck and not feeling this way so that I can engage an audience and I can sell this dream, but I'm not even living it myself.
Wow, that's powerful. The illusion, the online social media illusion, guys, it's real. It's so real. I was talking to Mark about that this morning, like, go ahead.
The worst part for me about the illusion is that we spend so much time building up this caricature and this illusion for other people that we take away from the time that we actually could be using to build ourselves up and to become the person that we want to be.
And we're going to get into that too, because there's so many celebrities. When I was doing the research on suicide, I saw that there's so many celebrities who have over hundreds of years that have killed themselves. And it's like, wow, like you don't even imagine that this has been just on the surface underneath the success or perceived success of these people. So I won't even talk about what is success. How do you even correlate how you feel about yourself versus how you feel everybody else feels about you as well. So thank you, Brianna, for being here. What I'm going to do is go ahead and introduce a couple of because we do have a couple of professionals here, because in every show when we have people talking about real issues, we want to have the professionals also talked about as well. And I'm really excited to be having our two professionals on here. The first is Jakina Giovanni. I hope I pronounced that right. I'm definitely going to beat myself up if I didn't. Did I say it right, Jakina?
did.
Jakina Giovanni.
Yes.
I'm shocked. Yay. Okay. I'm so bad at names sometimes, but if I can pronounce, so that's good. All right. And you are a life coach, a mindset life coach. I love how you say you've had more than 2 decades of coaching and development in a professional setting. So you are the founder and operator of Kina Connects LLC, and we'll talk about what that is, where life meets purpose. And you've been featured in the Nashville Voyager, bringing awareness to the benefits of life coaching. So I love that as well, that you focus on overcoming self-limiting thoughts that can prevent individuals from achieving their full purpose and potential. Welcome, Jakina. And I wanted to ask you, I know you were saying that self-limiting thoughts. What are self-limiting thoughts?
Thank you very much, Myckelle, for that question. And I've enjoyed each of the guests so far, just hearing the stories.
Right.
But when you think about self-limiting thoughts, for me personally, I was bullied as a child. You are constantly, at times, I felt I was put in positions to where I felt I wasn't accepted. I wasn't good enough, never a part of the in crowd per se. And this caused me to take on those opinions of others. When you hear it for so many different times and in different scenarios and pieces, it causes self-limiting thoughts, and you begin to believe that. You take on those opinions, you take on those negative beliefs and all those particular things that go along with it. And when we are conditioned to have those thoughts as a child growing up, it's going to manifest in our adult life, in our adult behavior. And I have a book called The Self-Love Guide, and it really just walks through being able to talk about how do we combat those self-limiting thoughts. So I'll make it short and sweet. When that one thought pops into your brain, you then have to share 3 thoughts to counter it. So I'm going to share something positive that I believe and affirm about myself. I'm also going to share the next number 2 positive affirmation or belief that I have upon myself. And then that third one is that reserve. So I have to say something to counter that thought, something to be able to build into it. And then that third one is the reserve. So when those thoughts think that they want to pop into your head, I have something in reserve to where that thought can't even formulate. So overcoming those self-limiting thoughts is so very important.
I love that. Go ahead, Marcus. Second, you're muted.
Okay. In regards to your treatment, do you, how do you feel about meditation?
Oh my goodness.
And or is there a meditation method that you recommend over one or the other?
I personally think meditation is a good step to be able to help you with getting back in touch with you. So one of the things that we experience is a lack of self-awareness of the good that we have and that we were born into and created to be. And so sometimes for me, there's different apps that I'll use, 1 to 2 minute meditation, but being able to sit in silence, this can be really difficult because our mind has trillions of thoughts that happen per second. Yep. And so one of the things that you do when you're going into meditation is what I've done in the past is had my focus word. So it could be peace, it could be gratitude, it could be love, it could be whatever. So that when my mind starts thinking about, okay, I got to cook dinner, I'm really not feeling this in this moment, you refocus and you focus on your focal word. So you choose the word that is going to resonate the most with you. And when I refocus back on love, it drowns out those other thoughts that are supposed to be coming. So you can start it in very small increments because meditation is not the easiest thing to just jump right into. And so you kind of pace yourself, but just even taking 5 minutes in that morning, getting up out of bed and going to your quiet place. Because sometimes if you stay in bed, you can go back to sleep. So just get up out of bed. I'm going to sit in silence, and this is my focal word to bring me back. So you can have nice soothing music, however you choose to do it. But 5 minutes of meditation can change the trajectory of your day.
Wow. Have you noticed that during the holidays, such as this season, that you have experienced more people coming to you with depression and or mental health issues? Does that happen more for you over the holidays?
I would say yes. I mean, we think about it. It's so marketed. Everyone's supposed to be happy. You have this family time, and this is the season of giving and love and all those particular pieces. But what if I just lost my job? What if I don't talk to my family? We just had a falling out. So anxiety is higher at this point, because I loved what your daughter was sharing in regards to, we create this illusion of how we want to present ourselves. Yeah. But then we come back to our reality when that camera goes off. And so how are you when it comes to your own reality? What does it really look like? So yes, this can be a difficult time. And even if you are close to your family, there's still traumas that, you may not have healed from, that causes the holidays to be a little awkward. And I experienced, a lot of my clients lately have experienced death. And, you think about this new holiday season we're coming into, I don't have my mother with me any longer. My grandmother just passed. My aunt is no longer here. Yes, I don't have my mother with me either. And so there's so many different factors. And when we're able to truly, and it's not the easiest thing, but to truly understand us, what we like. Do I like chicken? Do I not like chicken? Am I going vegan? Like, sometimes we're so indecisive and don't even know what brings us true joy and happiness. And then I'm trying to have a relationship. I'm trying to get along with my spouse. I'm trying to get along with my children. And I don't even know if I like pink or blue. And so thinking about that self-awareness is the starting point to it all, understanding. And then that helps us to overcome mental, and not even so overcome it, understand the resources and the things that are going to be beneficial to me specifically. I've suffered from depression, anxiety, all the different stressors that go along with life. And that's a part of why I've gone into this profession, to provide people with that safe space to help them navigate through it, because everyone doesn't have a good supportive circle. And that's the key. Right. So last piece, and I'm going to be quiet. When you see somebody out and about, smile, wave. You know how we always say, well, how are you doing? But we're so quick to keep on walking. Really be that listening ear, because we don't know how that can change the outcome of someone else's day.
Hang on, don't be quiet just yet. Not just yet. I got one last thing. Could you kind of connect the dot into how our diet actually plays a part in all of this as well? Because you kind of alluded to it when you're talking about, do I want chicken today? And then how we're about to indulge ourselves in a lot of holidays.
Oh my goodness. That is so important. And I'm not even going to procrastinate. I am working through that. But one of the podcasts that I was listening to, they spoke about how when we're eating dead things, that's when we get lethargic. That's when we don't want to move. And so I've been told, still working on it because I can't lie, is eating from the rainbow, but doing things that are going to bring us life. So when we think about our diet, even if we're, I'm going to eat a salad instead of that fried chicken, but those particular pieces, the balance. And I will also say, man, it's good though, but thinking about how that does have an effect on our mental. I don't want to go and work out after I've indulged in those particular pieces. And I would also say that fresh air, I know it's cold here in Nashville, but even taking the time to put your feet in the grass, plant your feet in the earth, get back those connections, those minor things can shift so many perspectives and give us that new thought, just putting your feet in the earth. So thinking about what we ingest, water, I'm working on it, but taking that time to just get back into the earth is so important.
Awesome.
Thank you for that question.
I'm going to go ahead and introduce our last. Thank you for that. I do think diet in mental health too. We don't even realize how it plays a factor. But I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next guest and final guest, because we do have one more person that we want to bring on the show. And this is our second mental health professional. I think we should have a couple of different viewpoints. I know we have one for the more psychology viewpoint, but we also have one that's going to be coming at us from a little more of a holistic viewpoint as well. So let me go ahead and introduce Miss Myckelle Bozeman, who is the CEO of Crystals, Diamonds, and Pearls. And she spent 10 years as Director of Christian Education with a local ministry in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She's a certified health, life, and transformational coach. And as a teacher, a thought leader, and mindset transformationalist, it's her passion and purpose to be a guide, motivator, and wellness mentor. And as you embark on a Queen Esther's cleansing journey of healing, which I want to find out about that as well, you can experience self-love, self-healing, and self-forgiveness. Welcome, Myckelle. Myckelle Bozeman in the house.
Thank you so very much for having me, man. This is an absolutely amazing platform, and so needed right now. Just so needed.
Absolutely. I'm so glad to have you here. I know that there's so much going on that we're going to be talking about with mental health, so I can't wait to ask you guys all these questions. But tell me a little bit about what a Queen Esther's cleansing journey consists of. When do you need one? I feel like I need one.
You know what? We need one when we're talking about our depression and emotional and mental wellness. That's what the Queen Esther's cleansing journey is all about. It is really tapping into that space, and really, like my sister said before me, is being able to be seen, felt, and heard. Because a lot of times we're dealing with depression, it's because our emotions are being seen. They're not being heard. We don't feel like we're being seen and heard in our internal space. In our reality and truth, like your daughter said, we take on this facade and you love us. But when it's just truly me in my mindset and in my thoughts and in my feelings, you ignore me. You don't see me. And that cries out on a consistent basis. So in scripture, when you talk about Queen Esther and you look at her story, she took a year of grooming and going through this transformational cleansing before she was presented before the king. And it allowed her to get stable and find stability and balance in her emotional, mental, spiritual, physical body. It affected her environment and her social space, so that she was so balanced and in alignment and in her truth, that when she stood before the king, he saw her glory in her majesty and saw her in her queenliness and in that power and authority. And it allowed her to find favor. And again, to be able to be in a position where when it came down to it, she was able to stand for an entire nation and say, if I perish, I perish. But she did it with so much power and grace. So we are in a place where we all need that type of cleansing experience and encounter when we're talking about just really finding that stability in our mental and emotional space. And especially now, it is so needed. And yeah, it's just a really powerful experience to have.
I love that. So you're the CEO of Crystal, Diamonds, and Pearls. How is that different from traditional? Because I know you talk about crystals and things like that, but how is that a little bit different than the traditional psychology methods and what's out there currently with counseling?
I am so glad you asked me that question. There is a difference between a therapist and life coaching. And, we as life coaching, and Crystals, Diamonds, and Pearls was really birthed out of my own trauma experience and my pain, and going through my own Queen Esther's cleansing journey. Getting out of this state of depression and really finding Myckelle. And, I've known as mom and prophet and teacher and educator and pageant girl and fitness girl and all these other things, but nobody really knew me as Nicole because I was morphing into everything for everybody else. And so when it was time for Nicole to stand up and be her, I didn't know her and I couldn't find her. And I had to go on this journey to find who she is. And I remember being on the beach one day after having becoming a widow and then becoming fatherless 90 days after I lost my spouse. I lost my father. And in that same dynamic and time, I was being ejected or rejected from relationships that were Christian based. I'll just say it, I was church hurt. And it really took me on this downward spiral. And one time I was sitting on the beach and I just was crying out to God, like, I don't know who I am. I don't know me. You asked me, what do I like? And I could tell you, I don't know. And so I was trapped up and wrapped in the I don't know trauma. And I wanted to discover who I was. And I mean, as clear as I'm talking to you today, I heard him say in my spirit, you are crystals, you are diamonds, and you are pearls. You are priceless. You are precious. You are valuable. And you're worthy of being loved. And that caused me to go into this space and really begin to create that type of, like my sister said, safe space where you can feel yourself valuable. Your emotions are valuable. They're worthy of being acknowledged and honored and appreciated. Your mental, your thoughts are worthy of being heard and seen and feeling protected so that you can speak your truth. And so it was really important as I continue my journey that I create that same safe space so people can step in. And we'll continue on, I'm sure, later on in this program and talk about that, being able to talk about our truth and our vulnerabilities and not feel judged for them.
Can I just add something? Or
yes.
A question?
Go ahead.
You know, one of the Bible says, you know, seek ye first the kingdom of God. And what that means to me today is that you are to be welcome to that time with yourself, because I can relate what you were saying when you were out there and you could hear that voice that crowned you diamonds, pearls, and crystals. And I think if you could address that alone time to people that may be watching, because some people may misinterpret that as they're being isolated to go and do the harm. But I think that's God telling you to sit here so I can minister to you. Not reading the Bible, but like you said, if you sit in that silence and that meditation, you will start hearing him speak to you. Could you talk a little bit more like in depth about that?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. You know, I recently put up a post and I said, prayer is when you're talking to God. Meditation is when God is talking to you for you to listen to him. And we'll get into that place. So when my sister was talking about that meditation and being able to go into your quiet place, it is being safe and feeling like you can step into that quietness and silence your inner bully and silence all the chaos and the noise.
Inner bully.
Yeah, oh yeah, that inner bully will talk to you, baby. That inner bully be like, who do you think you are? And get out of here. And you know you need to get up and go do this. And you know you need to get up and go do that. And don't get too quiet because your show's coming on in about 30 minutes. You know, so it's this beating up in our thoughts and our minds about where we want to be and who we want to be, as opposed to who people are telling us we need to be. And so when you find yourself in that space, quietness is not a bad thing, but it's been turned evil and wicked by society, thinking that if you're quiet, if you're too quiet, then you'll go down this dark hole, and you'll become imbalanced because you don't know how to enjoy and embrace the quietness. There's a gentleness that comes with the quietness. There is a peace that comes with it. But when you're dealing with the depression, when you're dealing with imbalance, and I really have something to share about that, and hopefully you'll ask me the question, because I'm like, ooh, I got something to tell y'all about this.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get into those questions. Sure, we'll get into that shortly, because I want to bring everybody in.
Yeah, for sure. But it's really,
so we did. Yeah, I want to definitely get into that.
Feel safe, to be quiet enough to hear. It is listening to learn and not hearing to respond. So we get in that space and we're like, but God, and we want to respond to everything, every thought that comes to my mind. We want to react to it. We want to have a reaction from it. And oftentimes we do it from our emotional space, which triggers all of these other thoughts. And we get into this space of chaos, and our inner bully starts talking. But when you're learning and you're embracing the ability to listen, to learn, that's when you'll start hearing the still small voice be like, it's okay not to respond. Don't say anything to that. Just don't move just yet. Just don't react. Don't send that email. Don't make that comment. Just shh for 1 second. I got something to tell you. And you allow yourself to start almost talking to yourself. It's being comfortable enough to be there and know that you're safe when you are there.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here with us. I really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and kind of bring everybody in now. We've got the introduction of all our guests, and I thank all of you one more time for being here. I definitely want to dig into this topic of depression, suicide. Some of you have been aware of tragic passing of he is a 40-year-old DJ and breakout star named Twitch, and he has actually, hold on, let me just put myself on screen. He has actually shocked everyone because he seemed to have it all together, yet he felt hopeless. He had a wife, he had children, he was on Ellen, he was working on some projects. We don't understand when we see stuff happen like this. We really don't understand how someone who has it so good can suddenly just want to take and end it all. And his death has caused other celebrities, such as Tyler Perry, to just open up and say, hey, these are my battles with depression. I've had a former pastor I've seen come on social media and talk about his struggles with depression. And so just as like Brianna was saying about the facade, we want to start breaking down those walls and being more vulnerable about what we're going through and being able to say, hey, I'm struggling here. That's such a challenge for so many of us, because if we do that, then people won't respect us, or they'll laugh at us, or they'll mock us. And we have seen that happen in social media. So it's not a far cry from reality. I mean, I saw, I'm thinking in my head of Will Smith, who, everything went down with his wife in this August Alsina, and he's looking a certain kind of way and sad, and it's made into like a crying meme, like you're not supposed to feel anything about what your situation is going on. You're supposed to smile. I mean, I'm still trying to understand why we put so much pressure on people for this. But before we get into like talking to each one of our guests, I do want to talk about the recent, I was researching celebrity deaths by suicide, and I noticed that so many of them have died that I didn't even know had died. Robin Williams, the comedian, I thought that was crazy. Kurt Cobain, he shot himself. Robin hanged himself. Van Gogh, the artist, shot himself. Cleopatra killed herself. Ernest Hemingway, George Reeves, who played the original Superman, and Don Cornelius, the Soul Train man. I couldn't even believe that. I was pretty shocked that he did that. He shot himself. Ray Combs, who was that host of Family Feud, the second host. So there's so many people who've done it that you don't even realize, because the world just goes on. So I wanted to talk to Gerald, Trina as well about their experience. I know Gerald has to go in a little while, so we're going to put everybody here. But Gerald and Trina, you lost a child to suicide. And so you understand when people are so surprised, because you think, like, on the outside, you guys are this wonderful family. You got 3 kids, you got the perfect house, you got everything going on. And then one day, out of nowhere, your whole lives are disrupted. So kind of before we get started into that part of it, kind of tell us a little bit more about your son. Who was your son? And you know, a little bit about him.
Highly intelligent young man. And I believe that he was trying to self-diagnose himself. He didn't believe in taking medicine. So, and he verged on the realm of spirituality. So he would study himself, and he knew that something was going on with him. He was bipolar, and I actually, as his mother, discovered he was bipolar before they diagnosed him that he was bipolar. So, but he would go from extreme emotional episodes, I guess you would say. And so on the outside, like, you know, like Brianna was saying, on the outside, it looked okay. Like all his friends didn't know he was suffering. We found a video after where he said everything was like perfect and fine on the inside and on the outside. And then on the inside of his head, everything was just raging. And it was horrible. So I think like the other lady said from I forget her name, from Crystals and Pearls, but Nicole, that it's your inner bullying. And I think he dealt with a lot of inner bullying himself. And I can speak on this because as his mother, for years I tried to get him help, a lot of help. And unfortunately, Georgia's not a mental health state. And
so let me ask you this. How did things slowly change from being that happy child? Because I knew your son when he was young. Your son and my kids were friends. So how did he change from just seemingly a quiet, you know, little normal child to this person who started suffering from bipolar issues and was going through to the point where you felt like he needed help? How did that happen?
Well, I will say truthfully, because, you know, you always look at things hindsight, he was always a little different than our other three children. So I can't say that he was always perfectly happy. He did have a good childhood, but he still is that emotional state. Because for years, since he was little, I started with just a psychologist talking to him. And when he outgrew that, I tried to get him other tests done, but he was always highly intelligent. So he would always outsmart those tests. It just got a little bit worse as he got into middle school and high school, where I feel like social media played a part, and where that's usually middle school is where they start dividing. The friends start dividing and start noticing, you know, you're white and you're black, and you know. So I think one of the first harsh episodes for him was just a social thing. Like he found out one of his best friends from elementary school was now prejudiced, or always prejudiced, you know. Oh, wow. He found that letter. So I think that was leading his downward spiral.
I think that's interesting because that started with such a disappointment. But what are the, I know you said you started feeling like he was suffering from mental health. So what is the steps you took to get him help during that time?
So I actually have had him go and get tests taken that he would bypass. His first attempt at suicide, we found out because a friend let my older son know this, and so I took him to the hospital. So he was institutionalized, and so we would go there and try to get him help. The first time was the longest, and each time he went, they kept him less times. So the time closest to his death, we asked for them to come pick him up, and he was in the hospital for probably a day, and then they sent him to the institution for half a day. And not even that, they called me on the phone to come pick him up. I was literally crying on the phone asking them to keep him, because he told us when they came to get him at the top of the stairs, I'm going to tell them what they need to know and they're going to release me. So why are you sending me? And they had all that documented, but they did exactly that. They said, I don't see any signs of self-harm or suicidal tendencies. And even though it was his mother crying on the phone saying, please keep him and observe him, he's telling you what you want to hear. He's highly intelligent. They sent him home.
And on top of that, that same day, not only did he say, I'm going to tell them what they will need to know to release me, he also said, it may not happen today, it may not happen tomorrow, it may not happen next week, next month, or even next year. I will kill myself. They have that documented.
So between the time that they let him go and the time that he did do this, what was the time frame?
Probably about 4 months.
4 months.
Because that was like end of April, May, and he died September 14th, 2019.
So tell me about that day. I mean,
that day, I was the one to have last seen him physically. He had gotten a good job. He just got an IT job. We found all the videos in his phone where he was just bragging on his job, and he seemed like the thing that was different about this time, each time he would go into this depression before trying to attempt to kill himself, and mommy was there to save him. This time I seen him, I came home from work, he was happy. He was so happy. You could not even tell that this was going to happen. So just like Nicole, after this incident, I was like, God, why didn't you give me the sign? You know, although I believe I know the moment he died because I woke up and heard him moving, but it wasn't anything different because bipolar people will stay up to the wee hours of the night. It was like, 12:30 a.m. and he would be making noises, and I'm a light sleeper, and I would hear him. But he was happy. He went and got his last meal. Like, he ate some food. He did everything. He told the dog to leave mommy alone because she just got off of work. Like, he wasn't in a bipolar rage. He seemed so happy, and I was like, I don't get it. He was happier than I had seen him. So. Oh,
and that's amazing. A lot of people say that, right. Like, there's no outward, they don't even act depressed right before the whole act, which I think is really, really, really important. So when this happened, you were the one who discovered what happened with your son, or was somebody else?
It was. I found him. So trying to tell the story, really, not the details of how I found him, when we found him, but we were supposed to go get him a car that day, and I was sending him text messages trying to get him to see if he was awake. We went out to lunch. He still didn't respond to my text messages. We got back home. He still was. I heard music in his room. I sent him a text, asked him, "Are you awake? I'm gonna get you a car. Go look at this car." And so I said, "Let me go up and knock on his door." Knocked on his door. He didn't answer the door. It was at that point. Well, I knew he was home. I'm thinking maybe he's not home. He left his phone there. He left his music on. But I knew he was home because I would send him a text, and you could hear the text, the alert go off. So he didn't answer the door. Door was locked. Went down and got the spare key to the room, opened the door, and that's when I found him. Oh,
that's so tragic. I'm sorry. I'm sorry this happened, because it was even a surprise to me as a friend of you guys to hear this. But let me ask you this, for other parents who have gone through this. You found your son, you had to go through all that. I saw you had to go through a funeral, you had other kids who you had to comfort, as well as going through your own internal pain. How did this affect the family dynamic and your relationship with your other children?
Let me speak on this really quick.
And I'm so sorry about this too. I know it's tough.
That's fine. We're going to shed tears because we cry every day, whether it's for a moment or for a few moments. But it's bringing the awareness to everyone about how this not only impacts the people that do it, but the people that they leave behind.
Absolutely.
I can say this, ever since it happened, as I'm maybe not so much today, but from the date forward, every day I was so scared not to hear from my daughter and not to hear from my other son, because now I have this fear that they're going to do it too. As I'm not sure how many have done research on people who have taken their own lives, but the chances of someone related to them doing the same thing increases tremendously, because several reasons. They want to be with them, or they feel that they're not enough either, or whatever the reasons may be. But so every day I'm on edge, waiting to hear from my daughter, waiting to hear from my son. I hear from Trina every day because we wake up every morning, but it's just waiting to hear from them. And once I hear from them, it's like, they're still here. Thank you, Lord. They're still here. But as far as the relationship between us, I'm going to say it brought us closer to the point now where, we are doing this together every week. Our mental health show, well, this started not too long ago, but it has allowed us to become closer together. Even though my son doesn't live here anymore, he lives on his own, and Jasmine's hardly ever here until now. It's brought us a little closer to them too, but we still worry about Trayvon because he was close. We're about both.
They were really close. Yeah.
I worry about both of them for two different reasons. One is because Trayvon and Tyrell were very close, and Trayvon often gets in that space of missing his brother. Well, he's always missing his brother, of wanting to be with his brother. And then he comes out. Jasmine, on the other hand, they weren't very close. They fought all the time. But that is because the two, Jasmine and Tyrell, are exactly the same. They are extremely identical as far as their not mentality, but the things that they do, the things that they say, how they act. Jasmine, from what I can see, doesn't suffer the same way Tyrell did, but she does get into a mental state, a mental state. But Jasmine's very strong-minded. She wants to be the independent 19-year-old who thinks she's 39.
Like all our kids.
Yeah, right. She pulls herself out.
I think she's more kind of like Brianna. She will say, I'm on my way home from work. I had a stressful day. I'm going to see my psychiatrist or my therapist. She goes herself. So I get her the sessions, and she makes the appointments with her therapist on her own. I'm not even involved. She's been doing that for like a year and a half. She's like, and she tells us often, you guys need to go. Everybody should talk to someone, she says.
Oh my God. So she's pretty mature. I love that.
So she does that regularly. Yeah, because at first I was afraid that she wasn't feeling enough, but she does. She just doesn't tell us. She goes to them. And I think another part that's hard for them, or at least for her, is because, like Gerald said, we're so cautious now. She'll be like, you always think something's going to happen. So we're more overly cautious with our other
you get more overprotective sometimes when something happens with one. Now you're like, where are you going? What time are you going to be back? I can see that. I can see that. And then they're like, hey, I'm okay. Hey, don't do that. Yeah. So I get it. Let me ask you this, because a lot of people, let's say there's other parents who've gone through this that we may know in our circle, and other people who are going through this. And usually when you have friends and family, a lot of them don't know what to say. They don't know how to react. They're not sure, how to help you or support you in your grief. What are some of the things that people can do to help if you are around someone who's lost a child? And what are some of the maybe misconceptions or the wrong, insensitive things to say to someone who has lost a child?
I'll let Trina answer that part, but let me first say this. I had mentioned this on my mental health show a couple of months ago. There are two things that people ask themselves when someone takes their own life. And the first one is, why did they do it? Why did they do it? Unfortunately, you're not going to know.
Okay.
Only the person who did it knows why they did it. The second question is, could I have done something to prevent it? That's another question
That's good, because a lot of people think, well, what happened? What was the thing? And then that puts the blame almost on the families or somebody else to understand that. And that's not something, like, if they're going to do it, they're going to do it regardless of whoever says whatever, It doesn't matter.
Oftentimes I have carried the weight on my shoulders, like, why didn't I do something about it? Even though I couldn't. Why couldn't I have prevented it? As the father of this son, as the man of my house, oftentimes I felt that I let my family down.
And another thing, as a man, let me ask him real quick something, Marcus. Like, as a man, you're expected, like we talked about with Marcus, to be strong and to be you know, you're supporting everybody else. You have to hold them up in your grief. So how did your wife or at least Trina's relationship with you help to make you be able to open up and be vulnerable and share this time with her in a healthy way?
Well, we both work at home. My office is upstairs, hers is downstairs, and many times, well, right after it happened, I would cry daily. I still cry, but not every day, not as long. Sometimes when I used to cry daily, she didn't hear me because I'm feeling like I gotta keep this to myself as being the man of the house. I've learned I've learned that I don't have to do that over time, but she's been very extremely, when she knows I'm crying, she will come upstairs or she'll send me a text, "You okay?" And then come upstairs, give me a hug, let her know. She lets me know I can talk to her anytime, that I don't have to I don't have to deal with this alone. You know, we're in it together. She's always there for me.
She's awesome. We love Trina.
I would say a thing that helps or would help other couples as far as their child to remember. So like you said, a lot of times men have a harder time showing their emotions, or people don't think about them as much. And even though people tell me I'm strong, but I feel like more people come to me because I was the mother. And so every time I am aware of that. So every time I always make sure that I am saying our child, it's not my child, it's our child. So he's feeling the same thing that I am. And Gerald really helped our family heal by trying to put his feelings aside. And that's why I told him about, you know, not always having to be strong. He would go through things just to make sure that we were okay. Like, you know, the first Christmas, he was like, "I got you this car because I needed to see a smile on your face." I have this blanket that's my most treasured item of him. It has all his t-shirts. I will not take that blanket anywhere because I don't want to wash it yet. It kind of has like his smell, has all his t-shirts Gerald had made for me. Like, he went for all of us making pictures. He was an artist. My son was, you know, smart and talented, and he had pictures that we have framed. Like every holiday, every something, he put aside his feelings and tried to give something to me and my other two children.
Trying to minimize their pain as much as possible. It's like a scale, you know. They're on this hand, I'm on this hand, and I'm trying to minimize it so that they're feeling less and less and less while I'm taking on more and more and more.
And speaking of that, I mean, you are taking on more. So what are the ways that you are able to unload that? Because I know you don't feel like you can do that with your family. What are some ways that when it's getting burdensome on you, that you're able to find that, you know, healing and release and things like that?
One is my Mental Health Wednesday show that I have on my radio show.
Okay.
Even though that's maybe twice a month, but that is my healing as I'm putting the show together. Especially when the topic is about suicide, which it's not always about suicide. You were on a guest when we talked about, I think it was weight loss or something like that.
Eating disorders,
which is a form of mental health. So preparing my show, I'm a 53-year-old guy who plays video games. Sometimes that
everybody's like, "Yay!"
We got to talk after this, dude. So that's
you
one
have
of my
a new best friend.
Yeah, you got a friend in me too.
That is okay. That is one of my releases. My reason is different than my other sons. My other son doesn't like to play. Well, he does, but he says it does bother him because Tyrell used to play all the time. I play because Tyrell played. And I feel like I'm doing what my son would be doing right at this time, right at this moment. He'd be sitting here at 1:00 in the morning on a Friday night playing Call of Duty, yelling at everybody.
And that's healing. I mean, my mother died and I'm recreating her house.
Yes.
And it's like every room I'm like, I'm gonna put this elephant in here because my mother loved elephants and she would love this and she would love that. And I think sometimes, you know, we want to internally just honor them in all these ways. Yep, and sometimes that does help us encourage that healing within too. To know that they would have loved this or they would have loved that, I think sometimes.
Yeah. Then
So
the other thing is because I'm my truck is I had an accident in my truck a couple of months ago, and I'm doing all the repairs myself because I know that's something that Tyrell would have done or has done to his car. I bought him a Mazda Miata for $500 because the wiring harness was burnt, so the car, nothing worked in the car. $500, YouTube, Google. That boy had that car up and running. What, couple of months?
Wow.
Because he did all the work himself. So that is my inspiration to do all the repairs on my truck myself, because I know my son will be out here in the cold right now.
I love that.
I'm
going to talk to the experts too. I want to definitely talk to the experts about that, those kind of things that can help you heal after a suicide, like those internal things that you can do or that people tend to do to move forward. I know, Gerald, you said you had a show that's coming, so we may only have Trina after a minute. But last question for you guys.
I'm going to stick around. I'll stick around.
Okay, yay. Okay. So what advice, before we get in, and then I want to talk to Brianna, who is a child who has suffered from depression, because, you know, she's my daughter, and when I called her and she's down, I'm always like, I don't know what to say or do. You know, I don't know how to say, you know, because to me, I'm like, hey, just get up and come on, let's talk and let's play music and let's laugh and you'll be all right. But what advice? Yes.
Sean, because this will fit right good. Dr. Nicole, you mentioned something, and we kind of went all the way over it. And it goes to why we can't really blame ourselves. And it's the internal bully.
Yeah.
That self-talk that's going on that you can't hear, there's no way in the world that you can do anything about that, because you don't hear what they're saying to said person. And that's I wanted to really highlight that and make sure we really talk about that.
Here's the thing about that. You know, when we take on labels and titles, when we have children, we're not called parents. When we are in school, we're called students. When we're working, we're called co-workers. And we have these labels that society put on us. And with each one of those labels and titles comes this required response and these responsibilities that they say are required for us to have. And so it was human nature for you as parents to go into that space, especially as dad, to go into that space of, I have to now be the superhero and take on the weightiness of everybody else's emotional trauma and experience because of this situation, this encounter, which is a natural thing to happen. What I'm going to say to you, sir, is that it is okay not be okay. And I love the fact that your wife is giving you that safe space to not be okay, to be vulnerable and expose your true emotional space without turning it around and using it as a weapon of warfare against you. Now that is power. That's power. Very powerful.
Yes, and that's why they've been married 31 years, you guys.
That part right there.
That's inspiring in itself.
So, Myckelle, I want to say something. So, we're talking about, like, you know, what he does to help, and how some people go and see the psychiatrist. That doesn't work for everybody. So everybody has to find, and this is what we were telling our older son, everybody has to find a way out. We did go to family therapy after, and I'll tell you, that did not work for me, because that lady, when you were asking what things can they not say, that lady said everything that I told her I don't like everyone else to say. Like, oh, you'll get over it. Oh, you'll be okay. So you have to find
other kids. You'll be fine.
You got other kids. Pray to God about it. Okay, so I'm not a religious person, I'm a spiritual person, and it's made me more spiritual because of this, and I do pray to God every day, but I still have pain. So I am so where he, you know, takes his time out or he plays video games, I am the opposite. I have to have physical. So I'm like Brianna, I torture myself. I have to exercise 2 to 3 times a day when I am depressed. That gives me my mental release. If I'm stressing out and I get witchy, He's like, did you go to the gym? Like, I mean, I literally have 3 gym memberships.
Maybe
I
you
go
should
to
go to the gym tonight.
Yeah, I have
Oh my
Burn
gosh.
Boot Camp. I mean, that's how I get my aggression out, because I feel like, you know, even though he's the head, I am still a secondary head, and I have to be strong, and I try to be a leader in everything I do. I will say that this has made me have a purpose. And, you know, I'm more spiritually connected, and I try to help other people in all aspects of my life, whether it be work, whether it be in my business that I'm doing, or whether it be in church. So now we lead a life group together, and it has brought us closer, because we have this common thing, and we know we have to balance each other, and we have to be here for our children. Do we each get depressed? Yes, we do. But most of the time we don't get depressed at the same time, so we can balance each other. You know, so
Okay.
I think that's
love
the most
that.
important.
Let me ask
You got to
this
find
question.
your thing to do.
You have to find your thing. I love that. So let me ask you this, as a couple who have experienced a child with depression or mental health issues, like someone like me whose child may be going through a depression or whatever. What is a piece of advice that you would give for those parents out there who see their child going through things but they're not quite sure how to handle it or what to do? Do you have something that you could tell them, or maybe resources that may be out there that they could reach out to and look into and seek that help from?
Yeah, I would say that I know you said, you know, like Brianna was saying, sometimes she's in her space, but I would still follow up with that child, check on them, and notice those signs of, you know, times that are different. And I don't know, everybody don't have the financial means to do different things, but for me, I will go to that child if I have to. If my other son is upset, I tell Gerald I have to go to him and pray with him. So for me, that I'm spiritual, so I have to first pray about it, and then I go ahead and talk to them. Just be in their space all the time. And I know we talked about this before, because sometimes it's like this room in the corner by yourself, and people could be talking to you. It's like they're knocking on the door far away. So you just got to try to do everything to get them out of that, and don't give up. Or even, especially with younger kids, I have friends that come to me, and keep advocating. Don't listen to those people. Keep advocating for them, to do whatever you have to help them, you know, find out what is their thing that's helped it out of the face. And sometimes, you know, you only could do it yourself. Like Brianna said, you only could do it yourself, but maybe you can encourage them the things to do, you know. Hey, are you going to the gym today? Hey, you know, like, you know, she likes going to the gym. Can I watch the kids while you go to the gym today, so they don't have an excuse, you know, when you're near? I know you guys live far apart, but that's
she's
what I would
in
say.
Texas. I would love to be close to her. I'm trying to get her to move out here to.
I think it was Nicole. I think it was Nicole that mentioned. Forgive me if it wasn't Nicole. Mentioned something about being kind and smiling at people.
Yes.
After my show airs every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. At the end of every show, and I say this with all sincerity to everyone. The reason I say it is because of my son. I say, be kind, wear a smile. You just might brighten someone's day and change their life at the end of every show. There's a meaning for that, because you could, that person that you walk by in the store and you got this frown on your face, or I'm sorry, if you have a smile on your face, they could look at you and it just change their world, because they could be thinking about the inevitable, or not inevitable, but they could be in a depressed mood.
Yeah.
Right.
But when they see you smiling, it could just be you. It don't have to be everybody in the store smiling. It could just be you that they see smiling, and it's going to change their world around. It could change their world around. Or if you just say something kind to them,
Isn't that?
it could change their world around. And that's why I say that at the end of every show.
It's the little things. It's the little things that we don't even realize. You know, I love the pay it forward things that were being done on social media recently, like buying somebody a lunch and they're in a bad mood, or you know, just doing the little things that you could for somebody.
Random acts of
sweeping their sidewalk. Yeah, there's so many little things. You know, we're a human community. You know, we're all connected here on this earth. And if we did more to step outside ourselves and recognize that there are other people outside of us, You know, we can do our little selfies and our Instagrams and all this and that, but what
and
about
other
the people
people in
like
the world?
out there? Like, yeah, there are other people besides us. So let's get out there and try to make a difference. Yeah, right.
I actually used to teach all of them that. I would tell them, and they were good at that. And I think that's why Tyrell helped other people. I said, you never know what someone's going through. So you could be their last try at, you know, saving their self. I'm going to see if Trina smiles at me today. It might seem simple, but I'm going to see if Trina smiles. If she smiles at me, maybe I won't do anything to myself today. I told all three of them that. So they were very good with advocating people. And that is why we do random acts of kindness in March, his birthday, and in September, the month he died, we do all month long. We do random acts of kindness in his honor. I love that.
Yeah. Well, I do want to say that just a couple of statistics. Suicide is the 12th leading cause of death in the United States. That's amazing. Every day, 125 Americans die by suicide. And I think that's interesting that it's the third leading cause of death for young people ages 15 to 24. Yep. You know, and we're not.
Can I piggyback off of that really quick, Myckelle?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
So I believe it was 2020 or 2021, might have been 2020 when the pandemic first started.
Yep.
20. Suicide rates actually dropped slightly among Americans, period. However, among African Americans, it went the other way. It increased. I wish I still had the numbers. I did a show on this one. But on African Americans, the number increased. It might have been 2020.
I think that's interesting. Did you find out why it said that was something that was going on?
I did, but I don't remember. That was a couple years ago.
That's interesting.
I'm trying to put
maybe the isolation. Together. We're so used to being around, like we want to be around family. We want to be connected. Maybe it's more difficult.
In our community, well, actually, I do remember one reason was because of the lack of resources that African Americans or we as Black people have available to us or are willing to seek. It's that whole pride thing for the men, but again, it's more so the resources available to us. Whereas in the other communities, they have those resources available.
That's true.
Almost
and they're more willing to go do it.
And more willing to go do it. Exactly.
We are like, oh no, I'm fine.
Right.
There's a stigma in the African American community. Yeah, I drink a little bit, but actually I noticed that alcohol is involved in 1 out of every 3 successful suicides. So, there's a suicide attempts, which it says 1 death for every 25 attempts. But out of the ones that are successful, alcohol is involved in 1 out of every 3 of those. So that's interesting. Most people think I'm going to drink and I'll feel better, but they don't realize that that's actually a contributing factor. Yep. So speaking of that, Brianna, I want to get into talking to you a little bit about that because number 1, you've stopped drinking alcohol completely. But number 2, you've also made it very clear on your social media that you do take antidepressants and you have done so much self-care recently to try to deal with feelings of anxiety and depression. Can you talk about that with us as a person in that Y generation who, has the success and the drive, but at the same time is having those struggles?
Yeah, well,
make sure your phone's off mute. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, well, again, I believe that success is relative. And again, social media creates this vehicle for envy, whereas we're looking at what other people have, and our thought of success is really a projection on them of what we want for ourselves. And so when we are, for example, you look at me and you say, I'm successful, I'm an attorney, I went to X, Y, and Z. But in my mind, I think I most struggled with being seen as the epitome of success by my peer group and also by my family and everyone else, but feeling like a failure. And no one could save me from that feeling of failure because it was rooted in my lack of what I thought I was a family. So on one hand, whereas I was super by I suppose by subjective definition, successful in that I had made it past a point where a lot of people don't go. For me, I was a failure because, again, I was a single mom. My idea of family was aligned with what the heteronormative family is as defined by, I suppose, both society and unfortunately patriarchy. And I'm like, okay, well, I want the mom and the dad and the kids in the house, but I don't have that. I don't have the father figure in the house. So I failed. I am not successful in this. I believe, and for me, life is all about family. And for some people, life might be about money or career and such. And that, again, it contributes to their definition of success. Whereas for me, because I believe that I was meant to be here for my kids, I'm a mom, like 100% full time. If life is about family, and in my head, I have a broken idea, I have a broken family in my home because I don't have a father in the house, then for me, I have failed at life because I did not achieve this family unit. And not only that, as a woman, it's my job to choose my children a father that will be present and that won't perpetuate generational curses and that won't ignite within them father issues and all the plethora of things that happen when children are disconnected from either parent. It was my job to procreate with a partner that could obscure some of those things and the stigmatisms and hardships overall. But I felt like I failed at that job, which has directly contributed to my thought and feeling that I'd failed at life in general. So again, maybe I'd had success in certain aspects of life, but for what it really mattered, for like to love and be loved in this world is something that I believe every single human being covets. And just watching it, even as a social media influencer, watching it on other influencers, social media, just them having a partner and someone to come home to and talk to, and someone to, maybe relieve some of the pressures that are put on them by being in the professional realm and such at such a young age. I mean, I graduated from Harvard at 24. I was working at one of the largest firms in the world at 25, with, in that sense, not really knowing myself and just trying to make it based off of an image that everyone else had of me of being an inspiration, but I was not inspiring to myself. That it
I think that's interesting. Jakina, as part of her program, talks about self-limiting thoughts. Jakina, what can you say to Brianna just based on what you just heard about those self-limiting thoughts, and what is your perspective? How do you help people get through that?
Thank you for that question. And also, Brianna, just for your transparency and vulnerability to be able to express yourself so openly and really being able to be in touch with that specific thing that was amplified for you in regards to what, in a sense, triggered that depression or that limiting self-thoughts. So we talked about before the delusional pieces that we can create, or the lives that we think that we're supposed to have based on how society has conditioned what we see. And how you talked about, we always are going to see the best part of people on social media. It's so easy. It's so easy for 3 minutes for everything to look aligned. And for me, with my clients, it goes back to addressing and getting back in touch with you. Self-awareness. And this has been a journey that I've gone through, the struggle, the self-discovery. Nicole, I appreciated what you were sharing in regards to that quiet time of self. What do I like, and how that success, that purpose, that passion is going to vary for everyone. That sense of well-being is going to vary, but it's about getting in touch and understanding what does that look like for you. So I always ask my clients, when you were a child, what brought you the most joy? Like, sincerely, what did you see that made you light up and want to move forward? Like, did you, whatever that may be, how do we get back in touch with and address? It can sound cliche, I'll take it, but a lot of times we never address that inner child. And one of the things that I have people do, that I've had people do, is to write a letter. What advice would you give? What would you share with 13-year-old you when you had that experience that shifted? Because you think about when we're conditioned as a child, we're very influenced. You know, I have a 2-year-old right now. I have a 2-year-old and a 28-year-old. And so I think about my 2-year-old and how he everything is like, ooh, I get to do this and I get to touch this. And we condition him to grow up and decide what he stands for, what's good, what's bad. So in the mirror, we do affirmations. He knows he is a king. He knows that he is loved. He knows that he is special. And so when you think about it, have we ever really written that letter? Have we ever really decided what brought us true happiness before everyone else's opinions, thoughts, focuses transitioned us away from who and what we really are? So it's just getting back and being able to reconnect.
That resonates really well with me, because you see this lens of two directions. Number one, us needing to stop focus, and I keep on resorting it to success being relative, and us needing to stop focusing on what other people define as success and comparing ourselves in that sense. And then number two, stop creating an idea of success based on what we lack. And I think everyone does that. Yeah. So it's
powerful. That's powerful.
Yeah, we say like, oh, success is, X, Y, and Z. But if I did have this family unit and I didn't have this like degree and all this stuff, I would be like, well, I'm not successful. I just had this. So we create a sense of wholesomeness based on the holes in our stories.
I love that, because you think because the celebrity has the big house, the big car. Yes. Oh, this is what success is: the big car, the fame, the millions of Instagram followers, and then they kill themselves. So you're like, wait a minute, I thought they had it all. I thought they had it all, but what was success? What was the definition? What is the definition of success? Yes. So Brianna, I want to ask you real quick, what are some of the signs you had when you first noticed you were dealing with depression that showed you that you were actually having those type of episodes?
So number one, just kind of to preface this, we've kind of described during this episode as when we talk about depression and such, we say things like, what made him, first he was normal, and then what made him depressed and such, and whatever else have you. I want to just clarify that my position is that you are still normal, and I know that everyone means well, but you are still normal if you're depressed. Like, these are emotions that you have to deal with, and that everyone deals with in some capacity. It's just how we deal with them, and that is largely based on our environmental influences.
Yes.
But we're still, normal. It's like, not like I went from one position to another in terms of my mental capacity, and then I was having episodes and stuff. That's not necessarily how it happened. But I know for myself, becoming self-aware was extremely important in understanding how I was feeling and what depression meant for me, because it's all relative. Just like productivity was all relative, it is all relative. And every time I would be like, I recognized early on, and I don't remember a time in my childhood and my life of me not being depressed or not feeling emotions. And it had nothing to do with like my family or anything wrong. It had everything to do with the fact that I was in constant self-comparison against the outside world of what I thought happiness should be. And so with the whole depression thing, I know that I feel very deeply. I have very, very strong emotions, and it could be the artist in me. And when it is geared into a positive aspect, it is very great because I can use that energy and such to create something beautiful. But also, if I let that energy overtake me, then it feels like death. I don't feel sad. I feel devastated. I don't get happy. I feel elated. You know?
don't like someone you're in love.
I love this week.
We're in love this week.
I am extremely emotionally driven,
Right.
And it makes it so that I feel in extremes. Now, I don't think that this is like me. We can sometimes people define it as like bipolar or whatever, but it's not. I don't think it's bipolar because it's not just like up and down. It's literally everything I feel and do, I do in an extreme. Like I told my teacher, I'm not going to law school unless I go to Harvard. Like I'm not.
She said that.
Unless when I start cleaning my house, I already know it's going to be an all day thing. So either my house is like crazy or perfect because I can't just start and like not go all the way. And so like
with everything.
With every single thing that I do. And so my understanding is that I need to, again, stop comparing myself to what others define as depression and whatnot, and create my own definitions. And a lot of that was rooted in, for example, productivity. So I used to feel depressed. Sorry about this, guys. Sometimes I would feel depressed if, for example, I felt like I was falling behind. Especially being in a place like Harvard, where it's like you are in, it feels like a competition with the most smart people in the world. I felt like I had such imposter syndrome, so I was always trying to battle that with being productive. And then I just thought about it. I'm like, okay, well, productivity is relative. Like maybe productivity for me at this point in time means to stay in bed and not move, or productivity today means to organize my schedule or something. But I have to create and it's just like how I went back into my family definition, and I had to sit there and understand that by my being so obsessed with what I don't have, I'm not appreciating what I do have. And ultimately I have these beautiful children. I might not have a husband, but I get to be with them every day. I get to have all these wonderful experiences. And in that sense, I get to define family, just like I get to define productivity, and I get to define happiness.
I love that. You determine success on your own.
You have to create
on your own.
Because if we allow other people to create the definitions, and if we continue to compare ourselves, then our own definitions will literally mirror the lack thereof, the lack of what we do have, and we're focused on lack.
I love that.
Can I jump in?
Go ahead, Nicole. I was gonna say, okay. I knew you had something to say. Go ahead. Let's get it in.
Let's go, Brianna. First of all, my sister, you are empath. You are very
yes. That's an empath. You're right. You're right.
You hold and you feel the energy and flow of emotions on a greater level. I feel you. I'm there with you, and I do the same, which drains us a lot of times because we get around people, we're like, oh my God, I can't, because you can feel that. But this is what I want to give you an exercise. And you started to say it. You started like, I have to create my own definition. And I honor who you are in the space that you're in, because baby, you are doing it. And if you can begin to celebrate yourself instead of comparing, because what happens when we do that and we get that imposter syndrome, guess who has the power? They do. And you give it to them unwillingly and unbeknownst to yourself. When we go into this space, like, I have to react and respond according to what they say I should do. It gives them control over your emotional, mental, and spiritual space. But sister, the minute you start saying, but wait a minute, I need to start defining, because my family definition of family is my definition of family. It's not yours, and I don't want it to be yours, because now you take control and you have your power to define and create and manifest how it makes Brianna feel and lights you up on the inside. And sister, you are a graduate of Harvard, baby. Now, how many 24-year-old African American women can say that? You
Right.
are a mom who is manifesting, who is producing, and you are showing up as an influencer. And it's time for Brianna to celebrate her life the way you have been creating it. You've been doing the dang thing. You are influencing other people to do it. And that's the power, sister. You are so powerful that if you can embrace and hold on and start wearing that superpower that you're standing in, baby girl, listen, Linda.
Okay, let me tell you, this girl is a beast. Every day she impresses me. She's on the computer 10 hours a day putting together her online stores, and she's gotten 3 appointments to put all her fitness wear in the open market, and I mean, it's just everything she puts her hands on turns to gold. So I love that about her.
Actually,
I'm not saying that because she's my daughter.
You're creating how you want your life to look like, and how you want it to be, and how Brianna wants it to feel, and how you want to be seen and show up. And so, baby, it's time to celebrate Brianna in just her queenliness, because you're absolutely
that's
doing
been
it.
the most defining lesson of my past year, is understanding that showing up is enough.
Showing up is enough.
Okay.
Showing up is enough, and you're doing that. And so I celebrate you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's time to celebrate, sister. You bump all everybody else, be like, whatever. But I'm probably over there tripping anyway. But baby girl over here, I'm doing it.
I'm showing up.
I'm showing up. And that way, when I do that, I'm showing out.
Yes, ma'am.
I love that. I love that because that's a powerful message. There's so many people who feel like, okay, when I get there, then I gotta do this. I gotta walk a certain way. I gotta act a certain way, or they're not gonna like me. I gotta hang or socialize with these people. And then, it puts so much pressure on us to always be on performance mode. And I think, like she said, just let me just show up. Let me just be here. And that's good enough. And then you'll start taking that pressure off yourself, And
Ding,
I
ding,
love
ding,
that.
ding, ding.
Yes,
I love
celebrating
that.
those successes is key.
Celebrating the small success. I love how Brianna said that, because I told you I had an Uber driver, and he was going through depression. He said, just waking up, I just say, I'm going to just make my bed this morning. And it's the little things that cause that feeling of success. It doesn't matter how little it is. Honey, if you can put deodorant on that day, sometimes that's a success for somebody. If you can brush your hair, or if you can't brush your hair, if you can just change or take a shower and just change. I mean, the little things that you can do just to give yourself that little bit of success for that day, it's okay. And maybe tomorrow you'll do something different or add a little bit more to it. But we put so much pressure on ourselves to be perfect, and that's how I feel like the depression and the anxiety comes in. Marcus, I know you're saying something. Your phone's muted, or your mic. Go ahead, say it again. I'm sorry, your mic was muted.
I said we don't put too much pressure on ourselves. It's that inner bully that be talking to us all day. And see a lot of, are you guys familiar with Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now? Or Brianna, yep. So he talks about that, and it's that inner talk, that inner voice that a lot of times be putting that pressure on us. See, we go out and we do the things we're supposed to do, and then like Brianna says, okay, well, now it's in the back of her mind saying, well, look at all of these, smart kids over here. You're not like them. They put in the little extra. You're not doing this. And that sort of stuff weighs on us all the time. True. And I hate to say it, even in this conversation, we talked about some of those things, but we still, for me, are not pointing. To me, that's one of the main culprits of this issue, is because it's our inner voice that lies to us a lot of times about what's going on out here, because we don't have it under control.
Right, and I think that's another show we can have too, because I think there's so many aspects of anxiety and depression, from the internet to the celebrities to the things that are going on in the family to the community. I mean, there's so many aspects of it. I think this would be a good 3-show series if we decided to do that, because there's so much to cover. and not enough time. You know, my goal was like an hour, but we've gone over. But I still love this time. We've gone over almost by another hour. But I do think that there were so many things that needed to be covered. I really appreciate like Gerald and Trina coming to this platform and just sharing their story. I mean, that is not hard. That is not easy. And to be able to do it with such, you know, clarity and awareness of how they can turn around and help others get through that same thing, I think that's just a blessing. I'm excited about you, Brianna, because, you know, even through all the things you have gone through, you still managed to continuously uplift and inspire others as well. So, you know, I think that what you do out there is just killing it, and you're an inspiration, but just showing up is enough. You know, I love that about you.
And that's for me, that I want to know how. I'm always wondering, like, when I've had like depressed and my, as a disclaimer, my best friend actually committed suicide as well.
Yes.
And like we all, like, if we know someone, we want to know how to best speak to someone who's going through that, or what to say, or what to do. But I think that the most important thing, I think that we need to start under creating dialogue that's shaped around how to encourage someone to make that choice on their own. Because no one's going to beat this. You're not going to come out of it until you make the decision to change. Like I said, I had to create, so you can tell me a bunch of wonderful words and, you know, try to uplift me and try to be there for me. But unless I see a light, unless I stop trying to see a light at the end of the tunnel and make the decision to be my light in the tunnel, and I have to make that decision, it's not, I'm never going to overcome what I'm going through. So how do we teach people to become their light and to make the decision to show up for themselves?
Well, I definitely want to ask our two experts that. Yeah, so let's start with Nicole. Teaching people, how do we get to that point? If somebody is contemplating suicide or they're depressed, what are what are some of the resources that you offer them, and what are some of the things that you say to them to help them get through that time?
Here's the thing that I want to interject this real fast, and then I'll jump into that because it'll lead us to this answer to this question. Is there is something that we didn't touch on, but that is a factor in what we call this thing called depression. And it's called seasonal affective disorder, or AKA seasonal depression. And what happens is that it's triggered during the fall season, because our bodies and our biological clocks begin to change because we're losing sunlight, which means we're losing our serotonin. So when my sister says she goes to the gym 3 to 4 times a day, it boosts her serotonin, which gets her into that happy space. And it kind of makes you feel good. But when we're talking about the changing of seasons, it internally will also shift and change us and how we deal with things. Our brain chemicals become imbalanced because we have less serotonin in our brains, because we're losing, guess what? Sunlight, which is vitamin D, which is critical for us to stay in that happy place. So when my sister was saying, get outside, get into the grass, get that sunlight. And in summertime, you'll be like, oh my God, there's sunshine. You're like, yay! In the wintertime, you want to go hibernate, like, brr. It gets cold. You get lethargic. You get sleepy. You start, our eating habits begin to change and shift. So,
and I've heard that the highest suicide rate in the country is in Seattle, where it rains the most.
Where it rains the most, because you go into this decrease. There's a decrease in your sexual desire. You get you get hopelessness. You get those suicidal thoughts. You start oversleeping when it gets colder, right? You crave more carbs in this winter time. Our weight begins to increase during this time and season. You get trouble concentrating because and our interaction with one another shifts and changes because we get into this seasonal depression. And it's very real. And I wanted to bring that up because a lot of times when things happen, it happens right around this time, where it's the holiday season and we should all be celebrating. You see this decrease taking place in the emotional mental space, and the anxiety increases because from August to December and January, you're going from back to school, so that's all that expense. You got to deal with college, it's that expense. You're dealing with separation anxiety, where your children now have to go off to school, so all these different factors are taking place, and we're losing that sunlight. I say all of that to say this: when it goes to talking to individuals about and just kind of giving them encouragement when they have those suicidal thoughts and they go into a state of depression, there's several things that can happen. One, I'll talk about your diet, because it really is critical that we begin to increase our vitamin D and our omega-3 intake during these winter months. And the other thing I encourage is that movement and exercise. Is getting out, is doing things, is increasing our serotonin, which puts us in that happy, joy space. Journaling and talking is critical, and creating that safe space that people can really feel like just talk about it. And if they say, well, I don't want to talk about it, I don't know what to say, then you know what? It's okay not to say anything. And just be.
I love
and
that.
Let them feel safe to just be.
Just be. You don't always have to know the right thing to say. I think that's what all of us.
Sometimes saying nothing is the best thing to do.
Just being your presence. Your presence.
Right, being present. So my sister said, I'll have to just go and be in their space with my children. Yes. She ain't got to say nothing. You may not have to touch them, but your energetically, you'll get that vibe, and you can just be and make them feel safe to just be in that moment of vulnerability or that state. And they will begin to work through it because they feel safe to open up and be vulnerable.
I love that. Jakina, I want to ask you a question. As far as we hear about healing all the time, especially in the mental health profession, and I want to ask you about when it comes to healing, are we ever truly healed? And is there a method just to have you healed once and for all? When you go seek help, is it possible just for you to just be healed? Like I see people all the time, I'm healed. I'm healed. I'm healed. But then they got all this stuff going on. So like, are you ever fully really healed? Can you be? Because that might be a possibility. I don't know.
Yes.
But if not, if you can't ever really be fully healed, how can we move forward in a healing manner?
That makes sense. Thank you for that, Myckelle. Just thinking about this question with what is healing and can you truly ever be healed? It's going to vary person by person. When I think about healing, it's not living and being stuck in the past. When you think about the process, because we all vary with the traumas that we've experienced, with the challenges, with the different ups and downs, it's going to vary person by person. And so when I'm thinking of healing and can we ever be truly healed, it starts off with, and Nicole brought this up, with understanding your triggers. What is going to piss me off? What could potentially take me over the edge to where I want to isolate myself, to where I no longer want to engage in those particular people, places, or things. So really being able to know that this is a trigger for me. If someone yells, if someone says disrespectful things or not embracing of me, that could be a trigger. So when we're thinking about understanding those triggers and conditioning or retraining our minds and our brains to respond differently, like mapping out that plan. When this happens, guess what? I'm going to take a moment to pause so that I can respond. This is me taking that moment to think it through and not react. Those particular things are going to help us, and understanding that healing is an ongoing process that happens minute by minute. And we have to go back to celebrating those successes when, Nicole said this and I didn't explode. That I took the time to, let me think through what you said, and then let's have a discussion about that. So when we're looking at it, this is ever evolving, and the more that we can live, as difficult as it might be, in present moment awareness. All we have right now is this podcast that we're using to discuss to the masses about depression, suicide, overcoming stories, resources. Right now, this is all I have. I don't have 5 minutes ago. I don't have 5 minutes from now. I can plan it as much as I choose to, but I don't have it. It hasn't come to pass. And what happened 5 minutes ago is already gone. And so us being able to live in a present moment awareness. Yes, I can still plan out my goals, my visions, my dreams, but right this second is it and it's all. And so the last piece would just really understanding that we are forever healing and evolving.
It's an ongoing process. I love it.
Ongoing process.
Yes, we are always evolving. I love that. It's never like, oh, I'm done.
No.
We should always be willing to learn, grow, and change. That's how I feel about my own life. Like I'm always in a position of wanting to learn so I can grow and do better. Even though, I'm up there in age, I'm still like, you know what, I'm always going to continue to grow and evolve because I don't ever think I have it all together.
Always under construction. That's what I say. I'm always under construction.
Under construction. I love that. So before we leave, I love that. So before we get out of here, because we went a little bit over, but I think it was for a good cause. We got some good stuff out of this, and I feel like hopefully the audience, is able to just like really absorb this and get some word for them for their own lives, because I know a lot of us are out here struggling silently, and maybe somebody, whether it's Gerald or Trina or Brianna or Jakina or Nicole, actually spoke a word into our lives that we needed to hear today. So if you were here, it wasn't by accident. You came for a reason. So, and if you wanted to share this podcast with others or even bring them onto the group, let me just say this real quick. Facebook.com/groups/the XYZ Connection. Bring your friends, bring your family. We have some great discussions. Every day we're talking about love and health and relationships and things like that. So bring your friends, come on board with us, and let's talk about things like this, because we want to. I plan on doing more of these shows over time. I definitely want to bring more people on so that we can get together and go through these topics, because they're so stigmatized. Like we said, there's a way that we can say things and be more empathetic, and there's a way that we can understand more about self-healing and self-care and healing and care of those around us. It's all about relationships, because we're all connected on this earth. As much as we think it's us versus them, it's not. We're all connected on this earth. This earth explodes, we all going. So, we got to learn how to live in it together and be one, and I feel like that's important. So that's why I focus on relationships on this page. But before we leave, everybody, can you really quick just tell me how to reach you guys? Trina, I would love to hear how we can watch your show and reach you there. And of course, Jakina and Nicole, I'd love to hear, if they're inspired to go ahead and get some healing, we can go to your page. And Brianna, how can they reach you on your social media? So Trina, we'll start with you.
Okay, so for Gerald's show that I happen to host on, it's Global R&B Radio. So if you are an Apple user, you can go to Apple Music and go to Global R&B Radio. If you are an Android user, you can download the TuneIn app, and you can go to Global R&B Radio from there. We do our mental health Wednesdays pretty much every other Wednesdays, and it is from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay, thank you so much. I can't wait. I've been on a show, so you guys know I'm out here doing it. Obviously, I'm a celebrity now. I've been on their show.
Right. We're going to have you back along with all the other guests here today.
Yes, I can't wait. So we got other outlets to be talking about this and spreading their awareness. I love it. Right. Okay, Brianna, how can we reach you, beautiful? Can you tell us a little bit more about your social media? Because you got so many followers. I don't know if you'd notice us if we join you. I'm just kidding.
Oh, my God. You can reach out to me. My Instagram is lovexbrianna, like XBRIANA. And via Instagram, you'll have my contact information. So you'll reach out to me and get my email and anything else you need if you wanted to talk directly.
I love that. So if they reach out to you, are you able to like see the DMs and like respond? Do you respond and deal with your followers, or how does that go?
Yes, I do. For the most part, I try to as best as I can. I do.
Okay, so you guys go to her Instagram and become a follower and support her, because it's our job to support one another. I mean, this girl, she is a business owner. You're on her page. You're gonna get so much out of it. Oh, she's following you. Yeah, look at that. Okay, Nicole. Everybody follow her right now. Let's take a break. Let's take a break. I'm kidding.
You can just tell me your name so I can follow you back. I would love that.
Jakina, we got Nicole, Jakina, and of course Trina. Trina's already following you, I believe.
Yeah, right in the
and Mark.
Yeah, I followed Trina since I've been like a kid.
Yes, we do. She was their babysitter. She was their babysitter.
Yes.
I love it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go with Nicole real quick. Nicole,
hey guys,
tell
I
us.
am very easy. Mine's on Facebook or Instagram. It is Crystal Diamonds and Pearls. Just pull that up.
Okay, so Facebook.com/ you say Crystal Diamonds. Is that and the word and
with
pearls
the S,
or an
pearls
answer?
with the S?
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and post it here so we can have.
Hey, she got the blue check, so she's a celebrity.
I'm trying to figure out how to do this. I'm so jealous.
Yeah, she got certified. Brianna's certified.
So we got the Facebook Crystal Diamonds and Pearls.
Yes,
okay, everybody.
And out just Crystals, Diamonds, Pearls, all one word.
Crystals. Everybody's taking.
Put in Crystals, Diamonds. You'll see my page will pop up.
Okay, awesome.
This is what it looks like.
And so, do you have spots open? I mean, if they come, can they sign up? Would it be individual? Is a group thing you have going on?
I like to do group sessions. I'm more the group session person. So I like do workshop seminars and motivational speaking, things like that. But I will absolutely interact on both pages. I'm constantly interacting all the time and engaging with the group. Yes, absolutely.
So if someone wants to have you come speak, you're free to do that. That is awesome.
Yes, ma'am. Hit me up and I'm there.
Okay.
Say it one more time. Crystal
Diamonds, Pearls.
Diamonds, pearl, not and pearls.
It's just pearls. Mm-hmm. Crystal Diamonds, Pearls, and you'll see my picture will pop up.
Yeah, not and. We didn't put we accidentally put the and in there. So let me make sure that we put that back up. Hold on, Crystal. Oops.
No, Crystal.
Okay, so Crystal Diamonds. Well, I did it again.
Take the and out.
You guys know what to do. Okay, so we'll post that down in the comments. We'll put it down there. Crystal Diamonds. I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah, no, I'm gonna get this right. Hold on, because it allows me to change stuff, but it's not. Wait, hold on, Crystal. Nope. I don't have the blue check. Every time I change it, it doesn't change. So I'll go ahead and post that underneath in the comments. We'll do that as well. Okay. So, Miss Jakina, I just love you guys' programs and all the things you're doing in the community. How can they reach you if someone actually wants to follow you and probably get more information about your workshops and seminars?
Definitely. You can go to Keena Connects, all one word, KEENA.
Is that what the
Connects? KONNECTS.com is my website.
Okay.
Keena Connects is on Facebook. We have Keena Connects on TikTok, and Keena Connects with the K, Connects with the K. And,
yeah, that's the wrong one.
On Instagram.
Okay, so Keena Connects.
Yes, Keena Connects.
All one word.
All one word is the website. So K.
Is it IT? Okay, go ahead.
KEENA.KONNECTS.
Okay.
So
I found you on Instagram.
Did you guys find her?
I can't find you on Instagram.
But you have nothing on your Instagram.
I know. I'm gonna. Please, no. This is on face, no judgment. I've been more Facebook and TikTok, but I'm gonna get into Keena Connects Instagram.
Okay. So Keena Connects on Instagram.
Yes. Connects, but you can. It's TikTok, and I have a Facebook page. So thank you
I follow
very
you
much
on
for this.
Facebook. Got you.
Okay, so look
Thank
her
you.
up, guys, on Kina Connects. Look her up on
Yes.
Kina Connects. Okay. Well, I'm so excited, and Mark, you can find you where? Let everybody know where to
In the
find
group.
you. In the XYZ Connection group.
You know what?
Listen, Facebook.com/the XYZ. Oh, it's Facebook.com/groups/the XYZ Connection. You see it at the bottom. Please get on the group and encourage your people. Yay! We have the best discussions. And one thing I will tell you about our discussions, everybody is so respectful. They're so vulnerable. And a lot of people on the page are like, man, you know, this page has allowed me to open up in ways that other group pages haven't. You know, from the beginning, I put a tight rein on making sure that everybody was always respectful of each other. And now it's just automatic, like people allow other people to have a difference of opinion without all the name calling or bullying or any of that. This page is really, really a safe I feel like it's our safe space. So thank you guys. Thank you guys for coming today.
Hold on. Now,
Go ahead.
if you find my page on Facebook, I do post daily affirmations. It usually be for myself to keep my head clear, but you can also use those affirmations for yourself as well. Or like if you guys have some patients that need, some third-party help, send them to my page. I'm always posting some uplifting and inspiring affirmation for the day.
On Facebook? What's your
On
page on Facebook?
So it's Marcus, MAWKUS. And then Olford, OLFORD.
MAWKUS.
Oh, I found you.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
Marcus.
just ignore all the 49er and football talk and just pay attention to the positive affirmations.
Oh, you like the 49ers? Gerald likes the 49ers also.
See, I knew it was a reason I liked y'all. I knew it was a
Okay,
reason.
him and Gerald got to get each other's
like
numbers
y'all.
so you guys can they can play football together
He can help me troll
and play
those,
football games together.
Those
Yeah.
Cowboy fans, those Cowgirl fans.
I love it.
Thank you so
Cowgirls
much
all
for
over. Here
this
we go.
topic.
All right, everybody. Well, you guys have an amazing time. Thank you so much for being on this show. You guys, I know you've helped
Thank you for
somebody.
having
And
us.
if someone's here watching, yes, I appreciate all of you. And we will definitely talk again soon. Please be on the page. So you guys, if there's any comments you want to have about anything you've heard, you can put it at the bottom. And any of the speakers, you're welcome to go to the comments and talk to the people who have been here. So we want to make sure you guys are all here and present with the guests. So thank you, Marcus, as my co-host. Mark, I think you have done a great job as the first time you co-hosting. How did you feel about that show today?
I mean, it was great. I mean, good information. I thought it flowed like it should have flowed. And let me see something. And we got it all recorded.
Yay! Did we?
So,
Good. Well, I think that's the thing. And going forward, I do want to say I want to start having more shows that focus on the group discussions. I think you and I were talking about that, like for the live page, for the Facebook group page. I definitely want to start, because we have so many members who have posts that get 100 comments, and it's really something that's, the people are getting conversations and discussions that are really popular. And so I wanted to kind of take those popular discussions and maybe you and I start talking about them, in a separate little maybe discussion every week. And I think that would be good. We can highlight the top 3 stories. I think that would be good. So if your story is real good and you're getting a lot of engagement, I would love that. Every Monday, I put the top 10 contributors. Congratulations, Teresa, this week for being a top 3. You guys have been killing the engagement on our page and just, really supporting one another in that. And so I definitely want to make sure that we are going to be highlighting members' successes on the page and digging into some of those topics that and having more experts as well, digging into some of those topics that will help us maintain and cultivate our personal relationships. So stay tuned for the growth and expansion of this page, because I'm really excited where this page can go. I think we have an amazing team here, and I'm looking forward to doing more with you guys. So thank you, Mark, for being a part of this with me.
appreciate it.
Well, that's all for today. I appreciate everyone who's just jumped in and just been a part of it and chatted and talked with us. If you have any comments or this topic has affected you, put your comment below. Of course, if you have people you want to join this group and be a part of these amazing discussions, do that. I love the fact that we have real, raw, and relevant conversations, and we're going to continue to keep doing them because I think this is so key in understanding and loving on one another. Y'all have a great rest of your night and happy holidays as well. All right, I'm out.